Cat.
It's one of my cats that I have.
Oh, nice. All right, here I go. This is episode 7, right? No, this is episode 8. Let me make sure I have notes for a reason so I don't fuck this up. Yes, we are on episode 8. Okay, hello everybody and welcome back to Spice Cabinet. We are on episode 8 and I am joined by wonderful webtoon creator and artist Isaac, the young Sheldon lover. I don't know if you go by anything else.
I do actually. I go by NuttonButton on Webtoon and Isaac Nutton on Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome. So I'll put all those. Make sure I'll put all those links in the description so you can check out their work whenever you feel you need to. But is it all right if I just go with Isaac then for this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sounds great. So yeah, as Isaac said, they have made a webtoon called God Has Spite, which I did start reading a few days ago. I haven't gotten all the way up to where you're updated to, because you've got quite a bit on there. What is it? 23 episodes, I think you've got now.
Yeah, 23, I think.
Yeah.
It's gotten pretty. It got pretty big very
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, I can tell. It's you've got good readership, and I have enjoyed what I've read so far. Um, Interesting take on the magical person genre, um, which I've not had a whole lot of experience with, but yeah, I've been enjoying it. So why don't you why don't you just tell the audience, a little bit about more who you are and like what you do. You do the web comic, you're drawing, I imagine. Um, just go ahead and tell them a little bit about that story and what you're up to.
So currently writing and drawing God Has Spite, of course, and I have a friend named Ryan. He's not here today, but he's been a big help because he's my co-writer and editor,
Oh, okay.
and and he's helped me a lot with the story because before the story was really bad, but thankfully he asked a lot of questions and that made me realize I had a lot of plot holes,
Mm,
so that made me rewrite a lot of stuff. And
nice.
for drawing, I've been drawing it since last year, I think.
Sweet.
So I feel like I made some decent progress. Currently trying to catch have the buffer not catch up to me.
Yeah.
But the whole story started with a lot of people see a lot of my friends seem to assume that my main inspiration is this one anime called Madoka Magica because it's a dark magical girl story,
Hmm.
but it's actually not really inspired by it at all. It's mostly inspired by stuff like Sailor Moon
Yeah.
and other things. It just so happens to be a little bit darker,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to lean into the edgy category because I try to keep everything that would be considered a little bit edgy to a minimum. I try not to add swearing too much because I
Hmm.
feel like that kind of kills the vibe every time. And I do have to add some censorship because Webtoon would snipe me.
Yeah. Definitely. I definitely see the magical girls genre in it. That's the first thing I sort of thought of. It's very apparent inspiration. But yeah, on your note about like the cursing and swearing, I can definitely see how in a story like yours, and I guess this style you've chosen to work with, I can see how the swearing would probably hamper it down. I, on the other hand, my story has quite a bit of swearing, but it um, it fits more, um, and that's a thing I think a lot of people sort of don't get with dialogue and stuff. And it's good that you've got a co-writer. That's actually interesting. Most people I talk to are pretty much doing all of it solo, me included. I've been working on mine since 2021, um, all on my own. With I seek advice and criticism from people, but what's it like having essentially a co-writer while you
So,
sort of head the story and the art?
well, having a co-writer is definitely one thing I would always recommend. But I do know it's hard to get one because, as much as we want to admit, it's like really hard to find someone actually interested enough in your story to care that much to co-write it. So I was actually very surprised when my friend Ryan stepped up because he's a great friend. He's always been a good supporter of me. And I remember I would post. I have a different server that's like non-related to comics, but I would post my art there sometimes, and sometimes I would post my my little OCs. And my friend Ryan would be one of the people who would reply to them saying, "Whoa, that looks amazing! Can you tell me more?" And I guess like I've always been kind of shy about my characters. Like I've been like painfully shy. So, but Ryan definitely pushed me into like telling him everything.
Nice.
And then he was very supportive of when I made a comic. So, and I decided to ask him like, "Hey, can you read this and tell me if it's good or not?" And he read the outline, and he actually was really helpful. So I decided to make him a co-writer.
Nice.
Since he helps give me suggestions and catches my blunders. And I know I have a twin brother too who also helps me a lot with catching blunders.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's always super useful to, you know, have, if not a co-writer, just people around you who can tell you what they honestly think and give you good criticism. Not just in regard, like most people, like when they're making comics, a lot of them really focus hard on getting better at the visuals, but they kind of never think to, you know, send someone a script and tell them what they think. Because the one thing about script writing that, you know, is always probably the most important rule to learn is, you know, your first rendition's usually your worst. It's usually the shittiest one. And redrafting is insanely important and useful for nailing down a better script.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because I feel like the first outline I've actually written, it ended up getting deleted by accident.
Oh, wow.
I didn't notice until like months later that, like months later, to the point where Google couldn't recover it at all. So I was forced to make a second draft. And the second draft is extremely long. Like, I'll tell you how long it is on Google Docs, because a lot of people are so surprised when I tell them. It's still loading up the pages. Like, that's how long it is. Google is struggling to load everything. But I'm very lucky I have a co-writer that actually read everything.
Yeah, for sure.
It is currently still going, still loading.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, it's currently 174 pages long.
And that's like the outline, or it's like script writing, so like dialogue and actions being taken in the scene?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's
total it's about, oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just saying that is pretty long. I'm trying to think how many the first volume of my comic adds up to. Not 174, but
but it did. I was very lucky that my friend Ryan actually read everything, because I didn't think he would, and he would catch a lot of mistakes I made. Like if something was contradicted, he would tell me like, this doesn't make sense. And I feel like a lot of people are scared of that.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know it's scary to give someone like something you pour your heart and soul to, and then have them tell you like, this doesn't make sense. Definitely, I felt defensive before, but I've gotten, I feel like it's definitely exposure therapy.
Yeah.
From it, and because I'm more open to criticism now, and I know my friend Ryan also pushes me to add, you know, more, I would say more PG things into the comic too, because before it was like horrendously like dark and edgy.
Okay, so super edgy.
Yeah, but then he would tell me like, you made the main character very unlikable. I'm not attached to him, and I was like, dang, I gotta fix this.
Yeah, that's a thing that happens a lot nowadays with, even in mainstream media. Like a lot of the main characters can just suck ass. Like there's stuff you watch and you're just like, I don't care about you at all. I want you to lose, please.
Yeah, definitely. Feel like I don't want to point fingers, but I definitely feel like characters that are like villain characters, especially in anime, definitely influence that. Like, for example, Light Yagami.
Hmm.
from Death Note. Like a lot of people saw him being like an evil genius mastermind, and they're like, I want to make a character like that.
the well, the problem is that the story acknowledges he's an evil genius mastermind. Like the story's never really on his side. I think is the big difference. Like what I like about stories like Death Note is you can have a main character, your protagonist, be a really awful person. Like they don't have to be morally good, but as long as the story acknowledges they're not morally good and you write it to where their story is not contradicting and the things they do make sense for their character, you can have a really compelling story. You know,
Yeah,
they
and I
don't
feel like
have to be the good guy.
a lot of other media try to copy that sort of evil main character thing, but they
Hmm.
always miss the point.
Yeah.
I know the main character in my comic, Larry, he was actually supposed to be the main antagonist.
Okay.
Like he was actually supposed to be like a really bad person,
Hmm.
because like his whole backstory is that it was abandoned by his family. He used to be rich, and
Hmm.
he was originally going to have a spoiled brat type of head mindset where he thought he deserved everything.
Yeah.
But my friend Ryan read my outline at first, and he was like, I don't feel anything for this character.
Yeah.
There's nothing likable about him.
I noticed that when I read yours, there was a part very early in the story. I don't remember. It was like episode 1 or 2, where he was at the bar. The other bartender goes to like take his bow, and he reacts really, you know, pretty maliciously. And then the god character, scrutinizes him for it and goes like, just because you're going through a hard time doesn't give you the right to treat people that way. And I was like, I like that. That's good, because a lot of times stories will have a moment like that and have no acknowledgement that what he did was a little, you know, was kind of out of line, because like you go to work and you have an expected, uniform you're supposed to wear. You're out of that uniform. You can't really you don't have a whole lot of room to be bitchy about it, in a sense.
Yeah, definitely. I like to have the god character. Um, he definitely catches Larry whenever he's slipping, but
Mm-hmm.
of course it does. Without spoiling too much, it definitely starts to become an issue when Larry becomes more dependent and more of a better person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Without spoiling too much.
Yeah, yeah. I could, I kind of, just from the early parts I've read, I could see the God character kind of, and Larry having genuine conflict with one another, because every time Larry seems like he needs a break, the God like immediately threatens him with taking away all the blessings he's given him. I'm like, I can see that sowing the seeds for interesting conflict later down the line. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely I don't want to say God is a total villain, but I feel like without spoiling too much, he does become somewhat of a antagonist
mhm.
later on, especially later on where but Larry definitely he's a reflection of a lot of my internal conflict, a lot of my own blunders,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely a character I'm very attached to.
Yeah.
So like when my friend Ryan caught me trying to make Larry a super evil character, he was I decided to, instead of making Larry a straight up demented person, I decided to add some of my own struggles and give him like a real personality, and that's how the comic got so far.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
But I feel
I
like a
see.
lot of people are scared of doing that. Like a lot of people are scared of just adding their own like personal struggles to a character, but it helps a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I don't. For my case, I don't know if I've ever like the protagonist of my comic. She's pretty much doesn't have any like legit similarities to me at all in any way. She's Japanese born, 200 years old, a hardened fucking warrior, and very maternal figure in my story. And I don't really I think about her and I'm like, I don't know if I personally relate to her at all. I guess maybe there's some relatability that I subconsciously put in, but I would have to like really do a deep dive into how I've written her and then do some introspection on myself. But I guess that's an interesting difference between how people can write, because you seem to really take a piece of yourself and put it into your protagonist, whereas I kind of seem to do the opposite, where like I remove myself from the protagonist. I'm like, I don't want to make, you know, I don't want to relate so much to this protagonist that I care too much, or it gets in the way of my objective writing. And uh, like I still want to tell her story the most objectively interesting way I can think of, um, without letting myself get in the way. But I think that's more of like just how I am as a person versus with you. It seems like putting a piece of yourself into that character is going to have just a better outcome writing wise.
Yeah, I could totally see how you would write something like that, because I definitely have a big admiration for people who, you know, can't relate too heavily to their own characters. It's something I can't personally do
Mm-hmm.
because then I myself have a hard time connecting with them.
Yeah, and
So but I have tried to write characters like that before, but I failed.
yeah, and by relatability, I don't mean like I write them in a way to where, you know, how kind of like how you were saying, where uh, your main character, you're saying at first they were kind of just this evil, demented asshole that no one would like or relate to. What I mean is like the main protagonist of my comic, I've done the work to make her relatable and likable. You know, not perfect. She's got plenty of flaws that I've highlighted already in the story, but you know, just I don't. I guess personally, it's easier for me to like make the necessary writing decisions when I'm not so attached to them. Like I love my characters and all the ones I've made, but if I've got to really, you know, put them through the ringer, I'm gonna do it. Um, and it's easier for me to do that when I don't see myself in them personally.
Oh, I totally get that. Yeah. Uh, Definitely, I feel like I kind of have a character like that too. Ain is definitely someone I am very disconnected to, but he is the hardest for me to write.
Mm-hmm.
But he definitely, I guess, so I feel like he's not the best written out of the characters. I feel like he, mainly because I personally, I'm pretty bad at disconnecting myself from characters. So
Mm-hmm.
his character has a very different backstory from everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely hope that it's not obvious that I struggle with writing him.
Is he so? When you say he's like not as well written, do you mean like? I guess I'm by not as well written. Do you just mean he's not as in depth, or he doesn't have much of a personality, or like? Well,
Uh, Personally, I feel like I feel like he has a personality, but because his whole deal is that he's kind of he's very mistrusting of others. He's he's a big I don't want to sound dumb when I say this, but he's like the Sasuke of
oh,
my
okay.
comic.
Yeah. So he's the big grump.
Yes, but it is kind of difficult to write him, especially because I would wonder, like, is this still in character for him to do this? Is it in character for him to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I definitely don't want to fall into like him not having a real personality outside of making a few main choices, because he does definitely, his character development does get more aggressive with time. But I am worried about writing that in.
Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah, and I think a character being a little more static, or in a sense, you know, like you're saying, he's like the Sasuke of the story. Um, I think the biggest thing, like you brought it up, is just consistency. As long as he remains consistent with how you've initially written him, or he reacts as you would expect him to react to certain situations, I think like you're gonna be all right. Um, that's sort of the biggest thing with characters. It's like you can put them in just about any situation or give them any personality you want. Um, but you have to, as long as they stay consistent with that personality, then you know, writing wise, you're fine. It's just, you know, the whole other aspects of how you make them go through their story. Like I guess a good solid example of this is how in tuned are you with something like The Last of Us?
Oh, I checked it out before, but I don't have many memories of it,
Okay.
unfortunately.
What about Star Wars then?
I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm trying to find an example of something that's been horribly fucking written, so I can. But the point that stands is just as long as the character acts as if you set them up to act, then you're fine. Like you just have to at that point trust the process. Roscoe, shut up. It's my dog.
It's alright, I have 5 cats and they harass me daily. So, I do totally understand what you mean, because I've seen a lot of media where characters would act way too out of character. I know my friend Ryan, when he does some proofreadings for me and edits for me, he tells me this doesn't make sense for him to say, like he should say something else or he should do something else. This is out of character. So I feel like that's definitely been saving me like every single time.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely important to. It's really, it comes down to both like consistency and cause and effect. You know, it's like you never want the story to be the character does this and then this and then this. You want it to come down to the character does this because of this, and because of that they do that, and like it's always a cause, just a build up of cause and effect, you know. And
thankfully, that's kind of the rule I stand by. Because I remember someone on the Webtoon Canvas subreddit asked how people write stories, and I said that my formula is that because of this and because of that thing.
For sure, that is 100% the way you want to do it as well.
Yeah, because I feel like so many people it's like one of the most simple writing things, but I feel like everyone forgets about it because cause and effect is the main thing that makes a story good.
For sure. And I think it's because the reason people usually forget about it or throw it out the window is because they want certain payoffs and moments to happen. But sometimes it could be a number of things, like they've written themselves into a corner and they can't have the payoff that they want to have, so they just say, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. Or it's a situation of like, I want these two characters to have a certain moment, but it's not going to be consistent with how I've written them or the situation they're in, and so it's not gonna make any sense. You know, like I had a big moment like that for my story. I have the entire volume 1 all scripted out, and I basically scrapped the entire ending of the volume and redrafted it multiple times, because what I wanted originally was like a big action-y fight scene between two characters that I had planned for a while, and then I got around throughout the story and thinking about like beyond the first volume and how I want to go. You know, I sat down with the script and I was like, that's just not going to make sense, you know, the way I want that to happen originally. It would be cool as shit, you know, but it wouldn't have made sense, and what I have now is a much better version of the story, which, you know,
yeah, sure.
You get that cause and effect. And also going back to redrafting. Redraft your scripts. Your first draft is always shit. It's always going to be.
Yeah, I could definitely feel that. I definitely have scrapped like so many parts of my story. Like I've scrapped like a billion parts. Season 1 was going. The ending is still the same, but season 2 that I wrote down has been scrapped totally because it fell into nothing making sense. Characters, when I forgot what to do with a character, like if their conflict ends in season 1, I couldn't figure out how to make them relevant again, so I killed them off. And I definitely have scrapped it since then, and I've scrapped a lot of little parts that I originally had.
Yeah.
A lot of fights I originally had, because not everything has to be in the story. Not everything has to be in it.
True.
That's all right.
And
a lot of people are scared to do that.
Yeah. And to your point of like a character having their conflict resolved, an interesting thing about that is like some people say, you know, like, oh, their central conflict has been resolved. What's the point of that now? It's like there's plenty you can do with a character that's completed their main arc. I mean, like, I think people have like a misconception about character writing. Like, characters don't necessarily have to always have continuous development. You know, like there are characters who can stay static, who can stay super, um, I guess, steadfast in who they are, and they're super confident in their foundations without any self doubt or development, and they can be really good characters. I think a good example of characters like that are, like the first John Wick movie, only the first one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't like any of the other ones after, but in the first movie, he doesn't change from the beginning to end. Like, he's the same exact character with the same motives and same driving force that drives his actions from beginning to end, but people love that character. And, he's a well-written character because of the reason that he's consistent. He doesn't have some big character moment where he goes like, I've been wrong all along. He goes from point A to point B to point C, and that's how it goes. And he's a perfectly fine character.
Exactly. I feel like a lot of people should take inspiration. I mean, not to sound like a little bit too mean, but I feel like a lot of people, especially on Webtoon and Tapastic and other comic websites, take inspiration from a lot of bad sources. If that makes sense.
Oh, for sure.
Their only source of media that they watch is either children's cartoons or strictly anime, which is fine. But I feel like they limit themselves to just those mediums.
Oh yeah, and especially because anime is one of the I know it's controversial, but anime has one of the most chock full of tropes and issues of any medium I've watched. There's so many anime I've watched, and it's just the same exact shitty tropes that have pervaded throughout so many. There's a lot of really, really good ones too, don't get me wrong. Japan has some of the best media written in the world, but also some of the shittiest at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it's the same thing with America, and Western storytelling.
Yeah, I could feel that, especially with my comic, it falls into the magical girl inspired genres. And I've noticed that, if you didn't know, a lot of magical girl shows these days fall into the edgy category now.
So we're in that sort of deconstruction era of magical girl era. It's not the Sailor Moon thing anymore.
Yeah, because recently there's been a big spur of Metro Girl anime that it's a Metro Girl, but did you know that it's going to have cursing in it? It's going to have blood and violence, and I feel like a lot, basically, it's basically just really edgy, and I feel like a lot of people on Webtoon and Tapastic who are and other comic sites see that. They watched Madoka Magica one time. I'm not sure if you know about it, but it's definitely the first dark Magical Girl anime.
I've definitely heard of it and heard that it's very, very dark, very edgy, but I've also heard good things. I've just never checked it out myself.
Personally, I think it's definitely one of the best Magical Girl animes there is. It's not totally edgy to the point where it's unwatchable. It's there's no real gore in it. There's no real cursing in it or anything. But a lot of people just saw that and they're like, I can make a dark story too. And they end up missing the point.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of brings me to more recent shit that's come out, Has Been Hotel. One of the biggest issues I had with that show is the vulgarity of it is I get it, we're in hell, but it's just at some point it's can you just dial it back a sec? Can we have one normal sentence, please?
Don't worry, because I'm actually a pretty big critic of Has Been Hotel, because
it's
I'm definitely a hater.
I watched it the first season, and I was just it had good parts to it, but it had a lot of. My biggest issue is the weird sort of inconsistency of the character's moral compass. I remember one specific part of the show, God, what's her fucking name? Vagina. She had such a big issue with the weird leather sex stuff, but she was totally fine with killing and murdering. I was Are you trying to tell me that like it's a bigger sin to want to have sex with leather than it is to kill people? Like that was the thing that bothered me the most. I was just like, what are you talking about? Why is that where you draw the line? Like leather sex versus shooting a guy in the brains.
Yeah, that's why I've never been a big fan of Hazbin Hotel because not to dunk on Izzy Pop too much, but definitely
No, don't
not a
just dunk. It's fine. She's a creator.
okay good.
Like I've I am one of I'm a one of the people who's like it's okay if you have shit to talk about stuff. That's
Okay
the whole
good
point.
because I think her writing is like one of the worst things I've ever seen, and I feel like that she never knows what she wants. I especially hate the whole Evan bad, hell good type of stories.
Mm.
I always feel like they're always like the same, really contrived stories, and I feel like it's really uninspired, and I'm a big hater towards it.
It's definitely very shallow a lot of the time, and I think Hazbin Hotel is the perfect example of that, where you have the hell, like the literal denizens of hell, of sinners, of people like the worst of the worst human beings are down there, and also people who just happen to be gay. So there's a weird mix, but like in heaven, like Adam, the first man, the leader of like a section of angels for some reason, he's like the biggest dickwad imaginable, and I just it's that weird thing where it's like I can understand what they're trying to do, but it doesn't go beyond that. Like it doesn't go beyond, hey, everyone in heaven's kind of just like an asshole jackass, and everyone and like half the people in hell are asshole jackasses, but the other half are also really really good people who deserve to be in heaven. And it doesn't go beyond that in terms of like the idea of heaven bad, hell good. It's very shallow.
Yeah, and I feel like Fizzy Pop definitely. I guess the best word I can say is like it's first draft syndrome, because the whole story of Hazbin Hotel feels like a first draft.
I can see that. One of the things that makes me feel that way is it feels like a foundation for a story without the actual meat, because like it's so short and breakneck, like in terms of pacing. It doesn't give you time to sit with anything. It's like, okay, we've done that story beat, moving on to the next. We've done that story beat, moving on to the next. Like the whole fight with Heaven, I was like, that's a season 1 finale thing. I wouldn't have expected that to happen for like season 2 or something at least. Like we're already here fighting Heaven in the finale, which is really weird to me.
Yeah, I never I feel like it should have been a way longer. It should have been a much longer season 1 if that was gonna be the finale. I was surprised when someone told me it was season 1. I was like, what? What do you mean season 1 already?
Yeah. I think what kind of annoys me about it is like they don't spend enough time kind of I don't want like exposition, but like they need to find ways to diegetically put in lore into their story. Like my thing is like, how does someone get to hell and, for example, become like what do they call them? Like those head like gangster honchos, overlords. Overlords, that's what they're called. Like, how does someone get to hell and get to that level of power? Do you just have to, like, the shittier person you are in life, the stronger you are in hell? Or, like, why does a guy have a TV for a head?
God.
How do you get to hell and just get a TV for a head and can control electronics? Like, what? I feel like there's not enough reasoning behind, like, their power systems and how these things occur. I don't get it.
Yeah, I feel like definitely, it's definitely a case of to be as nice as possible, straight up 12-year-old DeviantArt OC syndrome.
Well, that's what it looks like for sure.
Because a TV forehead controls electronics, how do you get to there? And Alistair is definitely someone I have the biggest beef with in terms of character design and everything.
He's very weird looking. Like when I look at him, I don't see this like wise old overlord, you know, who's like super cunning and stuff. He's also one of those types of people. An issue I had sometimes is that he's supposed to be extremely confident and like always has the upper hand, but there are so many points in the story where he like loses his temper like crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, I thought the whole point of you was like that's supposed to be like when someone insults you, that's supposed to be like water off a duck's back. You're supposed to just keep it going, keep it pushing, and always like show a false face. You know?
And he's definitely a character that he's so inconsistent to the point where I don't like him at all. And his but you can tell he's a character that Vizipop personally doesn't want to change, even though he's inconsistent. I definitely hate all his motifs. That he has like so many motifs that it bugs the crap out of me. Like first of all, he's like a deer demon, but he's also a radio demon, but he's also a voodoo master, but he's also uses tentacles and stuff. Like,
yeah,
choose one.
Yeah,
choose one.
He's got like this whole like Wendigo looking form where he grows antlers and stuff. And then yeah, you're right about like what are the tentacles supposed to represent about him? What's the whole radio thing supposed to be? You know, I never actually noticed that till you pointed it out. Like the powers that he has are extremely inconsistent.
Yeah, like definitely. I feel like a lot of creators, they try so hard to keep that one OC they just really like, even though it's basically, for like a better word, a very Mary Sue's in terms of how much stuff they have.
Yeah. And to the show's credit, he does get fucked up in the finale to where he has to run away. So that's at least nice. Like it shows he's not like invincible. But you know, I never noticed that about his character before. Like just the inconsistency of like how his powers are represented.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of creators, they're very unwilling when they have that one super powerful character they like. They're very unwilling to just scrap some parts and just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Like Alistair is definitely a type of character just like that. Because it's just like you don't have to make him like this powerful, but also weak. If that makes sense, because like you said before, he loses his temper like in 2 seconds, despite the fact he's supposed to be like this confident, kind of all-knowing type of guy.
Yeah. That's.
And I feel like
it's definitely you know, like you brought it up with that, like it's something I guess I've definitely tried to do with my own stories where some characters have like abilities that aren't super OP or powerful, but they have to be used intelligently in a sense. Like I guess an example of that is like I have one character who's being illustrated now in my comic. She's had a 50-page chapter fight, and then she's gonna have a little bit more in this current chapter I'm working on. The way I've written her powers, like she's a total powerhouse. Like she's very durable, very strong, and she has this sort of innate imperviousness to fire. That's kind of her gimmick. Like she can conjure fire and she's immune to it, but she's not immune to physical damage. But like that's her strength, is that despite her physical damage, if she can move, she will move and fight. But it's also like her biggest flaw, because she lets herself a lot of the time just get hurt on purpose to like close the distance or get her hands on someone. But her pain tolerance just lets her go through it. But it's the sort of a thing I've written where, you know, that's kind of what gets her in the end. You know, it's that constant unwillingness to play anything sort of tactfully. But it's consistent with who she is. You know, there's never a moment where I have her, you know, suddenly become like some tactical genius where she like runs away and then tries an ambushing tactic. She stays true to her fighting style throughout, but it gives her the advantage because it works on people she's much stronger than, but people who are like much stronger than her or more tactically thinking, she's not gonna have a good time. Um, but with Alistair, like that, you're saying like that fight with I guess with Adam in the end, uh, he seems to kind of just lose at a point in the fight.
Yeah, I always that's like, I guess that's my biggest beef. It's just like I feel like nothing's ever totally consistent.
Yeah.
Because all like I thought this guy was like the final boss. If that makes sense. Like I thought he was like the strongest person in existence. Because I feel like everyone hypes him up to be like the super powerful, very be very this very scary thing. But then he loses. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all hyped this up for no reason.
Yeah. This is what is this? I think it's the third or fourth time I've brought up Hazbin Hotel with someone on this show so far. Everyone's got something to say about it. But I think it's also because we're in a bit of a lull for new media coming out. I think beyond like Hazbin Hotel, there's some anime coming out. I know Invincible came back to continue its thing, but other than that, there's not a whole lot coming out in the current moment in time. I've been recording these.
Yeah, not a lot of shows are really coming out, which is Hazbin Hotel's like been the one that I've seen nonstop and just like consulting. Please come out, please. I'm tired of this.
But we've also talked about some awesome shows like Freerin or Delicious in Dungeon. Those are the two like anime I've been keeping up with that I've been loving.
Hey, I've been trying to check out Dungeon Meshi.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. I haven't personally watched it, but I've seen so many clips of it. I'm just like, yeah, I basically watched the show at this point.
It's one of those shows that does a really good job at walking the line between its darker stuff and also the lighthearted comedy. It does a surprisingly very good job at it. But
yeah,
I highly recommend like actually picking it up and watching it. I know when the first season finishes, I'll be I'll be reading the manga. I'll be picking that up.
I definitely have been interested in reading the manga for a while because the art style is definitely very cute, and I'm definitely big fan of the fact that it's really goofy as well.
Yeah.
I feel like shows like a lot of good anime coming out lately, and I feel like a lot of people, instead of focusing on, I understand people love that dark humor. A lot of people think swearing is funny and whatnot.
It can be if done, well.
Yeah, it can be, but I feel like sometimes it's okay to pick up a more, relaxed story to take inspiration from, like, Dungeon Meshi, Frieren.
Yeah, Frieren's great.
It's okay to look at those like more less dark humor focus and more actual story and lighthearted humor focus.
Yeah.
Because instead of just focusing on like one source of media that your 12-year-old self thinks is hilarious.
Well, yeah. Man, we've just been doodling. Usually, when I do this, we do a topic and go off of that, but we just got going. That's fun. In terms of the stuff we've been drawing, so I see you're drawing your main character. I've drawn so far. You were doing so many cats. I decided to get one freaky cat in there.
Yeah, I noticed. I was like, oh my goodness.
And then I've got one of my characters as a magical girl since we were talking about it. She's a little monster girl with a big old jaw that can dislocate. Very freaky.
Love that actually. I love that actually.
Drew the lady I was talking about, the powerhouse and the bun.
Definitely. The future of my comic is definitely gonna go into more body horror territory.
Very nice.
Not to spoil too much, but the whole comics idea was inspired by a horror flash game.
Oh, really? Interesting. Which one?
It's called Covetous.
Never heard of it, but keep going.
It's definitely I'm not gonna spoil too much because I feel like it'd give away the whole thing of my comic. But it's definitely It takes like about like 5 to 10 minutes to play. It's really short,
Hmm.
but a lot of people wouldn't expect that's the main inspiration. But once season one ends, it's gonna be clear that it is.
Hmm.
Because without spoiling too much, it's definitely I would say the game is about wanting to exist and wanting to be known and have a life.
Interesting. Okay.
And
I can
and
see
it's
that.
definitely
I can see that concept applying to your main character already. Like, uh, you know, in the early parts of the story, because I don't want to spoil anything for people who want to check it out. I'll definitely put that link in the description for everybody. He, you know, he seems very attached to being, you know, God's little chosen soldier. I think the idea, like, he really likes the idea of having that much power, and
yeah.
having the recognition.
Yeah, definitely. He does learn to, value
Mhm.
humanity outside of that, but that does cause some problems in the future.
For
Since,
sure.
you know,
Yeah, it's the whole, you know, the obvious comparison is like Tony Stark. You know, he he likes the validation and the power of like people knowing he's Iron Man or something like that, and he has that much power. But it's like yeah, you don't want a character, or maybe you do depending on the story. It's like it's the balance of like their confidence versus overconfidence, or maybe it becomes their hubris depending on how you want to take the story. Do you have any like specific inspirations for your work?
yeah, definitely. Like I said, Sailor Moon is
Yep.
definitely a inspiration,
Okay.
and oh man,
What if
where's my
what if we draw like each of our own, like one of the big inspirations for, doesn't even have to be for our current work, just like maybe inspirations for being an artist or a writer or something.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So is it okay if you that cat in the middle, if you like just size him down a little
Oh let me just turn him like all the way down.
Yeah, it
I'll
doesn't
have
have to be that much smaller because we've got all this, you know, space right here we can work with.
Yeah. Let me just. Oh, dang, how do I do that?
There's a little lasso tool. If you see,
Oh.
you circle them and then use the right under it, the little bounding box tool, and take one of the corners, and you can just.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah. You can just
There we
move them
go.
out of the way. Perfect.
That's convenient.
Yeah. All right. So, I guess we'll each go into big inspirations. I have a lot, so I'll have to see which one I want to roll with. And worst part is I'll be doing it from memory, so it'll probably look inaccurate as shit.
Yeah, same.
I literally do not remember what she looks like. Holy shit. I'm trying to draw Alita, fucking battle angel. I don't remember.
Wait, didn't that come out with a movie like somewhat recently?
It did, but it was originally a manga.
Oh yeah.
A very, very good manga with some of the coolest sci-fi art I've ever seen. And
Oh yeah.
I was at the library recently, and they had the whole, like, a whole first volume, and sorry, and it was definitely, when I read it a while ago, it was one of the bigger inspirations for me because I love both sci-fi and horror and stuff. So my story like tries to combine the two into one, and this was a definitely more influential piece for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely a lot of manga. I feel like I used to really love. I know when I was younger, I would check out manga from the library and try to copy the drawings and also take them to school with me.
Yeah, for sure.
So, surprisingly, even though Sailor Moon's an inspiration for my comic, I actually didn't really get into it until I was already an adult. But I just, I fell in love with the character designs. It's really like I like lighthearted stuff.
For sure. Yeah, there's plenty of lighthearted stuff I'm into, like that were pretty big inspirations. One of my earliest ones as a kid was Adventure Time. That was one of the first shows I watched that made me like, just like, I was like, damn, I really want to like draw and make my own cool little fantasy characters and stuff. And then it was after that, like I would say the probably the biggest initial inspiration for me was probably Black Lagoon.
Oh god, Black Lagoon. I
Yeah,
love that one.
that was one of the first shows I watched. Probably as a little too young of a lad, but I did um, on Adult Swim, and it was like, damn. So I can make an animated like cartoon series like I've always wanted, but it can it can be this levels of like dark or have that sort of edge to them. Um, because before I didn't really watch a whole lot of. That was one of the first anime besides like Dragon Ball that I actually watched.
I know another inspiration for my comic, which is also in the dark category. A lot of people also might not really expect it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not sure if you heard about this one horror anime. It's called Elfen Lied.
I've actually watched that one.
Yeah, it's definitely a big inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember how the girly looks like in it, but
She's
definitely one of my favorite ones to rewatch.
yeah, yeah. It's very it's edgy and dark, but like it's one of the ones where it's done in a good way.
Yeah, where it kind of keeps that dark tone throughout the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely it's an inspiration for my comic in some ways, especially once season 2 hits. Is then it's I hope my comic doesn't come off as edgy, but it definitely is going to become a lot more graphic and violent as the time goes on.
Uh, the thing with I think when a story gets that sort of title, like the negative version of being edgy, where it's like it's too edgy. I think it's when it's edgy without a reason. You know, it's like something like I don't know what those movies are. The ones with that killer clown where they have like the insane practical gore
Oh yeah,
effects.
oh yeah, Terrifier.
Terrifying. Like that, I've seen clips and I'm just like, What's the point? Like, what am I watching this for? Like this feels like something for people who actually want to hurt people. To me, like I'm just trying to understand the point of this story besides just showing off insane practical gore effects, which is kind of cool in a sense. Is like, yeah, practical gore effects in like movies and stuff can be cool, but it's like the way that people die in that, just like it just makes me cringe. I
Yeah,
feel
I'm personally a huge fan of disturbing movies, but when it comes to those, Splatterfest ones, I definitely have to look away a little because I'm like, oh god,
it's just one of those
too
things where it's like
much.
this feels like a movie made for people who like exclusively watch live leak footage, you know.
Yeah, I do love a good slasher, but that one definitely it's more kind of where I draw the line because now it's just gore. I can't tend to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, for me, for a story to like have gore, there needs to be like a reason for it.
Yeah,
Like, I would say, you know, like in a sense of like stuff like I guess the movie Deadpool, or you know, darker films like maybe like a military film, something like Sicario, or No Country for Old Men. Even like those movies have a lot of violence and gore, but it's never to the point where like there's like no purpose to it. It's gore is one of those things that's kind of hard for me to quantify, I guess, objectively, because it definitely relies a lot on someone's like subjective tastes in media. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
put gore
uh,
into kind of like the same category as like comedy, where like it's really hard to quantify if a joke is like objectively well written, because like even if you might think it sucks, there could be someone out there who thinks that joke was the funniest thing ever made. Um, so that's what gore is one of those ones where it's difficult for me to actually like objectively say is it well written or bad written in media.
yeah, I definitely feel that. I know another big inspiration for me now. That also has a lot of gore in it. Is I'm not sure if you heard of this game. It's called Fear and Hunger.
I have which one is I haven't played it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I played both of the games, and you were talking about Art the Clown earlier, and in the second game, there's a character called Needles. That's literally just Art the Clown.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just him, but
Oh,
like
I know where I've seen Fear and Hunger. I watched Oni Plays play that damn game.
yeah, I've played it. Definitely a huge inspiration for me now. It's so
Hmm.
the gore is insane in that one.
Yeah, for sure. I some of the shit I've seen in that is fucking weird. Like in one of the clips I saw people playing that, it was like this like ogre thing, and it's like its cock was like just hanging out, like dragging on the floor. I was
Yeah,
like, what the fuck?
prison guard.
Why?
Me and my
Why?
prison guard.
The fact that someone drew that and animated it is just fucking funny to me.
Yeah, I definitely love the game because it's so hard too. Like like the only way I could have played it is adding an infinite save hack.
Oh wow.
Because the only way to save is by finding a special book, but the book has a random chance of spawning.
Hmm.
And you can also save by going to sleep, but if you go to sleep you have to do a coin flip, and if you lose the coin flip you die.
Okay.
And lose all your progress.
That, yeah, that I wouldn't be able to play that.
Yeah, the only way I actually played it is by adding the infinite save hack because I couldn't deal with it no more.
I would not be able to do that. That's just one of those things. Just like, you know what? If people like it, they like it. I can't. I can't have my
Yeah.
entire progress be decided by a coin flip.
I know, I couldn't. Definitely, the second game chilled out with it. Like the second game is, I feel like it's definitely a lot better.
Hmm.
Like it's still like they got rid of all the nudity imagery.
Mm.
They got rid of all the excessive gore scenes,
Hmm.
and they got rid of most of the coin flips, which I'm kind of sad about because I thought they were funny. But the second game is definitely a way bigger inspiration to me because
Yeah,
because the story's actually way better. Like, there's more story to it.
that's good at
So
least.
so I still, but I still can only play it if I could literally can only play it if I had the infinite save pack because it's still really hard.
Yeah, that seems like one of those games where it's like designed to piss you off in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I know. Without, I guess this isn't a spoiler, but for the second game, you can find a Ouija board,
Hmm.
and if you open the Ouija board in the woods, a ghost tells you that you're getting warmer and colder,
Hmm.
like that type of game. And when you're finally at hot, and if you go into the direction where it says hot, the game trolls you by making you fall into a spike pit and kills you instantly.
Jesus Christ.
And this game is like so mean, but like I guess that's why I like it because it's funny to me. Like I thought it was so hilarious.
You just like being trolled, huh?
Yeah. I just thought I love games like that are super, overly difficult.
Yeah, for me personally, it's like I enjoy difficult experiences as someone who likes Souls games, but never never to the point where it's like I gotta start all the way the fuck over. I games like that, unless it's like an intended like roguelite type thing where it's a pretty short experience where dying is like part a mechanic of the game or something. But like the way I've watched Fear and Hunger just makes me think is like, oh god, that seems like hours and hours of work just going to waste.
Yeah, I snapped when like I actually made real progress, but then I thought I was on my lucky streak. But then I went to sleep and that one ogre thing showed up and destroyed all my progress.
Mm.
And I could because like my health was already low, and that's when I just I had to leave my
Mm.
room and just take a minute to think. Then I installed the hack, and then my life was great.
Interesting. So, actually, out of curiosity for your webtoon, um, how did you like actually start a sort of making it? Was it one of the situations where the drawings and designs came before the story, or vice versa?
Kind of. So I did have a webtoon I made when I was 16.
Hmm.
It's gone now. It's deleted.
Okay.
But it was called Crying Little Monsters. But
Hmm.
like it was like there's monsters in my comic, and I guess they kind of follow the same thing, where the main character was the main character. You see the little pink ghost? Yeah, the pink ghost was like the main character,
Hmm.
and his name was Larry, and but also the whole world was like made of monsters, and it was like I'm not sure if you've seen Steven Universe, but I guess it kind of operated the same way as it.
I have. I don't like it, but keep going.
But you know, in Steven Universe, the Homeworld Society where everyone has like a purpose. That was kind of the same exact rules my story had for
Okay.
its world, which is just because I was 16, I was just copying it,
Hmm.
and every monster would have this mirror, and the mirror would have an actual human in it that would teach them how to do monster things. And Larry, the main character, the human guy, that my main character was actually the mirror for the ghost.
Okay.
And he was still an antagonist by then, so he would always be super cryptic, super kind of rude.
Hmm.
But then of course I was 16, so it was horrible, and I made stuff up. I made stuff up as I went along, and then eventually I just deleted it. But I decided to reuse the mirror character as the main character for God Has Spite.
Okay.
And I know Ain, the blue guy, like the second main character, I would say, his whole character was also in comic, my old comic, and Ain's whole motif was that he would always wear a different wig every day.
Hmm.
Like he was the weird guy,
Interesting.
but like, and Rafe and Tomy now. I'm not sure if you've gone to that point where those two are characters yet. They didn't really have.
I've gotten to the point where he's been introduced, but I don't know a whole lot about him just yet.
Yeah, I know in the original comic I made, they weren't really major in it yet. Like they didn't really have a personality, but Tomino used to have multiple arms, and it was more monster than human back then.
Hmm.
But but that's it. But when I got rid of that comic, I decided to stew on keeping the characters just because I like their designs, and edited a lot of them. I did a lot of them down. Like he doesn't wear wigs anymore. Larry looks like a regular guy now, and I repurposed them into something a lot better, which I'm happy about.
That's good. Yeah. For interesting. So it's sort of just it played off of a story you already had. Like you just took elements of that first story and it sort of metamorphosized into this new one you're working on.
Yeah, because I guess with my first comic, Crying Little Monsters, that's how I realized I could not world build.
Yeah, world building is that's one of the definitely I would say one of the tougher aspects of writing because it's like, is it a how do you introduce mechanics and the events of your world without having it feel like exposition or like lore dump? How do you diegetically introduce it into the story?
Yeah, I feel like it is the hardest one, but I know when something has bad world building is when they try to copy Star Wars with info dumping at
Yeah,
the very start.
yeah,
Yeah, that's how I know when to click off.
yeah. And well, the thing with Star Wars, I think it works for that is because it's supposed to be a little like more of that. You know, what I like about the Star Wars like a crawl in the beginning is it only sets up the introduction and nothing else. Kind of like how Lord of the Rings does it, where it has that intro in the first movie and then the rest of it you're just learning as you go along. It doesn't like just tell you how everything in the world everywhere works.
Yeah,
Which
it's
I think
definitely
can work like that.
they're great examples, but most webtoons I've seen that try to do the lore info dump, I just click off because I'm not reading all that.
Yeah. For my story, I don't like the way the start my story is I don't have any sort of introduction to how anything works. It's just I start the characters off doing a thing, and I started the story from there. Like there isn't like an actual introduction technically to the world or characters. It's it's very micro in how it starts instead of the typical like macro way of like you introduce the world and the mechanics and then the characters you follow. Whereas in mine, it just starts with the characters doing a hit job, and that's it, and just continues along like normal, which actually your story kind of does as well, where it starts off with the main character doing his thing, his normal job, and then it continues just to pick up from there, which I prefer in storytelling.
Yeah, the world's definitely going to be expanded in the later chapters because that's when the characters start asking questions, especially Ain. Ain is definitely the one that's always confused by something. Always the one asking a question to God's dismay, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I try to keep everything a mystery until I know at the end of season 1 everything's going to make perfect sense without explaining too much.
Yeah.
And I try not to add too much world building at once. I prefer to show everything that's, weird.
Mm-hmm, for sure. It's sort of a similar. Roscoe, stop crying, dude. That's sort of a similar way I do it as well. Like whenever information needs to be expounded, it will be one way or another. But if it's not relevant to the scene, there's not really a reason for characters to be introducing a topic. In that, if it's not like relevant to what's currently happening, I don't see a reason for characters to be talking about it. Which makes it feel, I think, much more realistic. Like because people in real life aren't gonna just randomly talk about things that aren't relevant in a sense. At least not usually.
I think I cut out for a second.
Oh yeah, I think you did. Were you saying something?
Yeah, I was saying that I do agree with you because it's hard to like make world building come out organically. So it's definitely hard to do, but because a lot of people just won't ask a question nonchalantly like, hey, how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Most people just kind of most people like to assume things on the pad.
Yeah, and also it's like the issue you have is like if you have characters living in a world, you would expect that characters mostly understand things that go on in the world, and that people in real life usually, like you said, they have preconceived notions of how things work, and they usually just roll with those notions until they're challenged.
Yeah, I try to keep that in my comic, and I don't like when characters ask too many questions like nonchalantly,
Mm-hmm.
unless it definitely warrants a question.
Yeah.
Because I know in my comic there are some buildings that are just straight up human-made structures, like the castle,
Mm-hmm.
a temple, literal casino
Mm-hmm.
shows up, and I know that's when the characters actually are just like, so like, how does this get here?
Yeah,
Or
and that's
why is there a casino? Who is playing this?
Exactly, and those are essence where something's out of place or something they would have no knowledge of and makes sense for them to ask.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to world building, a lot of people seem to when they want to add something new, they don't just have it exist, normally.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like most people have like their preconceived ideas that just kind of assume things, but if it's like totally out of place, I feel like that's when it's okay to just question it,
Mm-hmm.
and get a lore dump.
For sure.
Oh man, yeah, you're right. The canvas is getting pretty full.
It's almost full. We're almost done. I want to draw at least one more thing in a slot and have you fill up the other one. You know what? Just for funsies, I'm gonna draw one of your little monsters from your thing.
Yay!
Let's see, where was that big one? There it is. From the very first episode, I'm gonna draw that. It's gonna be tiny, but
Me and my little guy that died instantly.
Hold on, I can make this a little. Oh fuck! Wait, the fuck! Stop! Thank you. There we go. That's a little more room. I'll draw.
Kind of sad. I feel like.
Huh?
I feel like definitely. biggest mistake on my comic that I feel like it's too late to fix now is that I kind of wish there was more monster fights. I'm kind of sad about that, actually.
I mean, have you? Is it like a thing where you're not going to be able to have any more monster fights?
Uh, Thankfully not, but I feel like they've never posed that much of a threat, and
I
I feel
see.
like it's definitely my biggest blunder. That I guess I have to take the L. I have to take the L on that one.
Yeah, and sometimes you know that'll happen. You've written a story in a way where you can't really have the initial idea that you've always wanted.
Yeah, which is fine because sometimes you just have to take the writing blunder L,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm okay with because I know my first chapter. Oh God, it's not perfect.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you just have to write it in a way to where it's not a blunder. You know, like it might be a blunder to you because you have all the knowledge of the story that the audience doesn't have. But as long you just have to write it in a way to where it's still consistent and makes sense. And then to everybody else reading the story, it's like it's normal. But to you, you'll always have that thought in the back of your head. It's like, fuck, I had to fucking change that.
Yeah, yeah. I look back on some of the chapters, just like, oh God, why did I add that?
Yeah,
Why didn't that one chapter where the Larry just went to the store for no reason? Why did
yeah.
I add that?
I know one of the things for my story is I originally the protagonist had a certain hairstyle, and then after a while I didn't like drawing that hairstyle anymore. I didn't like it on her, so I just had a thing where in one of the chapters she's like, I'm gonna go to the salon and have get my hair done, but I turned that salon moment into an actual story moment where um because like the whole thing with my story is that she's what's called a chimera. So she's like a half human, half sort of monster hybrid thing. But she has they all have the ability to sort of like conceal their true um, forms and like blend in with people, but they're heavily persecuted um, because they need human meat for survival. So that's sort of the base that I started with. Um, and the salon lady the she goes to like she's a human, so naturally she has this like big fear of her kind, and she's just kind of like casually like describes that she kind of represents in that moment where she's getting her hair done, just kind of like um kind of how all humans feel about chimera and therefore the protagonist. So it's like I found a way to like take a moment. It's like I want to change my character's hairstyle into an actual story moment, and that's one of those examples of like, you want to change something in the meta of your story, but you have to find a way to like incorporate it into where people don't just say, "Hey, why did you have that random section of the story of the character getting their hair done?"
Yeah, I feel like it's always good to have. Uh, if it can be a story moment, you should always make it a story moment.
Yeah, every moment in your story is an opportunity. Like, um, you think of things like, have you watched Arcane?
Uh, yes, actually.
Yeah, like that show is. You think about it, it's only 9 episodes, but by God, like the things the amount of story they accomplish with only 9 episodes is insane. Like by the end of that first season, the entire state of the world, or like I guess the city, is completely changed, like totally from episode one.
Exactly. I feel like definitely one of the best examples out there, especially definitely one of the best cartoons
I mean,
that have been coming out.
I mean, not even just cartoons, just like it's one of the best shows. Period. Like, regardless of its medium, just it's one of the best shows written in a long time. Um, like it's one of those shows that I watch. I'm like, damn, this is like Breaking Bad levels of story writing. I love this.
Yeah, there are a lot of good shows that I haven't seen yet. I haven't watched Breaking Bad yet, but it's on my list.
Definitely can give it a high recommend. Breaking Bad's a great show for a reason.
It's just I already know I do know a lot of parts of it. I know all the memes because
Yeah,
uh,
it's been
all the
staying
memes.
very relevant lately for the past few years because of all the memes.
And I just know my dad. My dad's like in his 70s. He's old, but
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't like any shows because he gets bored. But
Mm-hmm.
Breaking Bad's the only one he watched in its entirety.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So like that's how I know it's good.
That was my way. That was kind of my thing with Arcane. Like I watched it with my mom, and she does not like. She doesn't usually take anything animated or very cartoony seriously. Just a generational thing. But like she was immediately hooked on Arcane. I was like, holy shit, that's the first time like she's ever wanted to watch something animated before. It was like that's a big feat in and of itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like when your parent likes that one thing
Mm-hmm.
finally. So my dad, he only watches things related to the cartel violence, drugs,
Interesting.
vulgar stuff. So,
Okay.
but he loses interest pretty fast. So I'm glad he found something he actually wants in its entirety.
Yeah.
Because every time I would walk by, he would be like, "Look, there's a scientist, and that's his stupid assistant. Did you know this?
It's like, look, it's a meth lab.
Look, look, isn't that cool?" I'm like,
Look,
"What?
my child,
Okay."
this is how we make meth.
I was like, "What? Okay, as long as you're happy."
He's like, you
Yeah,
know what? He's like, you know what? We should build a meth lab together.
finally we can have money for the cancer treatment.
This is a bonding moment between you and me. We're gonna build a meth lab.
I know, he really wants. I know my dad wants to watch Squid Game next. I'm like, I don't think he'll like it that much, but
That's one
but
it's on my list. I've never actually watched.
I thought it was pretty good, but it's slow paced, so my dad might get pretty bored of it pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm fine with anything slow pace as long as it's engaging.
But it's good because I know every time any violence happens in any show, my dad just starts laughing. Laughing. He's like, "Haha, look at that idiot!
I mean,
The
yeah,
idiot just died."
it's hard when it comes to like violence on TV. It's like most of the time it's hard to take it seriously, unless like it's extremely well written and well done, like Arcane.
Okay.
Mm.
And there's very few cartoons that I found good. So besides that one, so I'm still looking for any good show animated
Have
shows
you
outside
watched?
of anime.
Oh, outside of anime, I was just about to recommend one. Um, there's a lot of good ones that are just escaping me. I mean, have you watched things like Adventure Time or Regular Show?
I have in the past.
Okay, because those are just some great ones. I mean, there's plenty of good like animated films that are Western made. Um, Castlevania was pretty good if you've ever watched that.
Oh yeah, I've been meaning to because I know one of my old friends told me that I have the right hair to cosplay Castlevania, so I'm like, okay, maybe.
Yeah, there's Castlevania's got some good stuff in it.
Yeah, I feel like I really love its art style, so it's definitely very high on my list to watch when I have
Hmm.
time. And I usually dedicate most of my free time to making my comic or just playing Dead by Daylight.
Oh, Dead by Daylight player.
Yes.
I used to play a lot of Dead by Daylight, and I just fell out of it after a while. With me and my buddy used to play a lot.
Right now I mostly played with my sister and her boyfriend, but mainly because Lethal Company hasn't got an update, so we got bored, so we just moved to Dead by Daylight.
Nice. Um, I haven't played Lethal Company in a bit. Right now, I've just been playing Helldivers with my buddy and Elden Ring. That's what I've been stuck on.
Well, I've been meaning to look for more games to play with my siblings, so I'll
Oh,
probably look into those too.
Helldivers is a hell of a fun co-op game. If you're looking for like a good game to play with other people, I can easily recommend that one. Very fun. It's also funny. Like if you know anything about like Starship Troopers, it's like very like sort of what you call it. Like it's one of those like fake propaganda games where like
Oh yeah.
you're playing for Super Earth, which is like it always tell you you're fighting for liberty and democracy, but it's like mostly bullshit. But you still do it because it's fun.
Yeah.
The gameplay.
It looks like something I do.
Oh, for sure. It's like the ODST game I've always wanted.
for some reason, it kind of reminds me of Path of Exile in terms of how it looks, even though those are totally different games.
But it's very fun to play with friends. A lot of teamwork is involved, so one of the better co-op games I've ever played.
Yeah, I've definitely checked that out because I'm desperate for co-ops. I'm very desperate for those.
And Elden Ring is fun. It has like built-in co-op, but it's only in certain areas, like every Souls game. But there's a mod that me and my buddy got, which lets you play through the entire game with a friend.
Oh wait, that sounds great, actually.
Yeah, it's very, very fun to do.
I'll definitely check that out because I've been meaning to get into more games in general because I'm not that big of a gamer, but I've been a gamer since recently, and like now I'm addicted to co-op games because I don't like playing myself.
Depends on the game, but nowadays I have been playing a lot of co-op just because there haven't been very many single-player games. But there is a good survival horror that I started called Signalis, which I've been enjoying.
Ooh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's got a really neat, like, retro survival horror aesthetic to it. Thankfully, it doesn't have tank controls, but it's very fun.
I definitely look into that too because I'm a big horror fan. If it's not obvious.
yeah, for sure. There we go. I drew that little monster from your first episode.
Oh, it looks so good. Look at that. It's my little guy who died in one hit.
Yep.
Oh, I love it.
I think that's the whole page filled up.
Yeah, it has.
Nice. We managed to actually get through that quicker than most. A lot of times, we spend so long trying to figure out what to draw, and we get distracted by the conversations we're having. But this is, I like these are my favorite art boards. The ones where when you're done, it's just a mishmash of doodles and drawings.
Yeah, it looks great. It's very much, you can tell a conversation just happened.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
We got our characters, we got our monsters, and we got our young Sheldons.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm gonna go through left to right, which I forget to do on some episodes, but I'm doing it here. Got our cat in the rain. Looks like he's struggling to hold the umbrella because the rain's still hitting him all over his back. Got your main character here. He's looking happy.
Hello, guy.
Yeah, young Sheldon. So you're actually like a fan of the Young Sheldon show, I imagine, right?
I used to be like an ironic fan, but then I actually watched it and it was actually really good.
Yeah, the irony turned into reality. I don't even like The Big Bang Theory, so I don't know if I'd be able to watch that show.
Surprisingly, a lot better.
Interesting. Cat.
Many cats.
Cat, yeah, cat, another cat, and then a ghost. Is a ghost?
Oh yeah, that's actually that's one of the characters from the first Fear and Hunger that you can play as.
That thing? The little like snowy ghost thing?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about something else.
No, not the ghoulish looking lady. I'm talking about the little like pink ghost you got here.
Oh yeah, that was the first main character of my first comic I was thinking of.
Oh, okay, interesting. Throwback. And then this like depressed looking person, Funger.
Yeah, from Funger. First character.
Did you cut out?
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad.
No, you're good.
Yeah, and definitely Fear and Hunger, still big inspiration for me. Loved the art style way too much.
Nice. Yeah, it's got a neat art style for sure. Very creepy, very dark, desolate style. Under her, we got another cat with a shield and a sword. I imagine if that was in Fear and Hunger, it could be brutally killed.
Probably.
Going up, we got Sailor Moon. I forgot what the main character's name is. I'm gonna say her name's Sailor Moon. That's her name.
Yeah. Actually, it is.
Oh, literally? That's real? Her title is Sailor Moon?
Yeah, that's her title, but I know her real name is Usagi.
Okay. Next here we got the Elfin Lied chick. Fucking freak of nature. I always thought her little things were ears, but like they're like little bits of tech, right?
Horns. Yeah, they're horns. I
Yeah.
thought they were cat ears for the longest.
Yeah. So there's that. We're going over to my side. We got your little episode 1 monster. So if you want to actually see that monster, make sure you click that webtoon link. That'll be in the description to see it. Get it. Win. It wins. That's my headcanon. Your little guy down here, looking at him, getting ready to fight. Finn and Jake. Always love drawing these two. I love drawing Adventure Time characters because they're so simple. They're just built out of like very obvious shapes, which makes it very fun and easy to do. Another cat, and above that a little evil cat. He's not fucking happy with him at all.
They're having a nice conversation.
Yep. There above that cat is Keija. She got hit in the head. Doesn't give a fuck. Then there's another one of my characters. I don't think what's her name? It's a Cinnabon. That's her nickname. She got magical powers and she obliterates some guy, which she probably would never do. But if she did, that's the face she would have on when she does it. Just gleeful killing. Probably.
Love that. We love that.
It's probably not true though. If she actually ended up getting powers and like obliterated some guy, she'd probably cry for about 3 weeks. He would kill someone and be like, I didn't mean, I fucking... That would be her.
No, not again.
That would be her. And then we have not Alita, because I don't remember what she looks like. I have the first volume in my room somewhere. But the fun of this show is me doing everything without reference, so I'll go look at it after this. But yeah, that's the whole board. That was a lot of fun. A lot of good topics to discuss.
Yeah, it's been great. I haven't done one of these boards in a long time.
Yeah, I've been doing them pretty consistently now with this show, but they're always super fun to do. Thank you for coming on. Seriously, it was a very fun time. And
yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, and before you go, make sure, why don't you just tell the audience again who you are, what you're working on, and if they should expect any other projects that you're working on in the future.
Hey, so, like you said, I'm Isaac, also known as the Young Sheldon Lover / NuttonButton or Isaac Nutton on Twitter, Webtoon, Instagram, all that. And currently working on the webcomic God Has Spite. And in the future, I definitely want to make, I'm aiming to make little click and point games based on the story and other comics in the future that are action based.
Very sweet, awesome. Wait, you said click and point games? Like you actually want to make some?
Yeah,
Oh.
it's definitely on my list because I'm a big fan of those.
Awesome, great. Well, I'm excited to see whatever you make with that, especially if it's something more horror-like, since you said you're a big fan. But definitely keep that in my POV of things. But again, Isaac, thank you for coming on. It was a wonderful time. Had a lot of good conversations, shitting on bad media, praising good media. Typically, what goes on these episodes. But other than that, thank you everyone for watching, and that's it. Bye-bye. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah.